Hello everyone and welcome back to the SteemTrail Gaming podcast. Today is the 27th May of 2018. My name is Kralizec and I am one of your hosts for the evening. The second host is Tygergamer. Hey Tiger, how are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. How about you?
I'm doing particularly well. Thank you for asking.
Good to hear.
So, sadly, today we gotta start with a bit of news. Sad news. As two people who had quite the influence on the gaming industry as a whole have passed away. The first one is my own personal favorite game reviewer, John Bain, known as Total Biscuit, who has passed away on the 24th after a 4-year-long battle with cancer. We got hold of the news by a tweet by his wife, Jenna. And yeah, it sucks. I honestly think he was the best video game critic there was on YouTube. He brought in a more mature look than most reviewers do. He also brought in humor, and even though he was suffering through a very hard illness, you could never really tell it on him. He was always positive. He was always a great influence, and he will be sorely missed.
Most definitely.
And the second person who has left us this week is one of the co-founders of Atari, Ted Dabney, who has passed away at the ripe age of 81. His death was announced by a video game historian, Leonard Herman, via a social media post. Again, it was on Facebook. So, let's begin today's show with a minute of silence. If you would please join us. Okay, I really don't know how to continue on right now, to be honest.
I'll just say this.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say this. To both the families who have lost someone, both my condolences and my empathy go out to them.
Yes, I think that is given. I think I'd like to bring up the fact that if you actually take a look at the comments under Total Biscuit's wife tweet, you can actually see the vast majority of them are supportive. There's very few people being jerks. And to the people who are being jerks, stop it. This is not a time to be jerks.
Really?
And I think the most telling part about who the jerks are is the fact that most of the people who aren't being, like, my condolences, rest in peace, or stuff like that, are people who are still spiteful of the whole Gamergate thing.
Get over it. That's all I have to say. Just get over it.
Yeah, it's been so long since that happened, and at least have the human decency to be nice. Especially if you were the ones complaining about people not being nice.
Yeah.
So that just pissed me off when I saw some of the tweets like, you know what, I don't care about him dying because he was a misogynistic fuck because he supported Gamergate. No, you're the fuck right now. So
yeah, really.
Human decency, I know, is hard, but it's not that hard.
No, it's not.
But nonetheless, we are here to talk about video games and the video game industry. So, Tiger, what did you get to play this week?
Well, unfortunately, I got to play one game, and that was State of Decay 2.
How come, unfortunately?
Because Thursday we had a storm come through, and the power went out, and it freaking fried my PS4 hard drive.
Oh man, that sucks.
Yeah.
You know, normally I would actually say my condolences, but today doesn't feel appropriate.
No.
So, how was State of Decay 2?
So far, I really haven't encountered that many bugs in the game. There have been a few, but not game breaking.
You know, I've actually heard a pretty decent number of complaints about the bugs. So, especially about the frame rate dropping pretty often. How much of that have you encountered?
Well, for me, it's hard for me to notice, but so far the game has run pretty smooth for me. So.
And have you tried playing it on in 4K with HDR?
Unfortunately, I only have a 1S. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because most of the complaints about the frame drops have come from people who play at 4K and try to use these modern technologies. So maybe the problem is centered only around that particular version of the game. Like, I've actually had people complaining the game runs for them at like 10 FPS. And obviously that's not a great thing. I've also seen like even texture bugs that you can like go through things, and sometimes it even screws up your game. So I guess that's worth complaining, I think.
Yeah. Now, I think the only bug I've really noticed is at your home base. One time I noticed that like you had a gate separating you from the outside, and the freaking gate just disappeared. I think that's the only big bug I've actually encountered so far.
And how much time did you put into it so far?
I'll say around 5 hours.
Oh, maybe the bugs are still waiting for you.
Possibly. And not to mention, I'll say this too. Not even just me, but also my brother also played quite a bit of State of Decay 2 as well. So, and then he hasn't encountered any bugs yet either. So.
Oh, maybe you guys are just lucky. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe more we get into it, 15 hours, 20 hours in, and maybe we'll start glitching out even more. But I would say so. I can see like in the game, there's no like the main thing for you to do is to survive, but there's no force that's pushing you forward to do so.
So
Like
nothing
what's that?
story-wise or something like that?
Yeah, there's no story present.
Okay.
Besides some talking between characters, and that's about it.
I think that would be a big problem for me particularly because either I have to have like a community around myself, you know, like a guild or something like that, that's pushing me
Yeah,
forward, or I need a story to push me forward. I rarely play games just to become better at them, I guess.
yeah. Well, in this game, you do get to build up your community, but that's pretty much it. That's the main thing that's driving you to get resources and all that. So,
Hmm. So, do you think you will be spending much more time at it?
possibly, yeah.
And would you recommend it to potential buyers?
If you have an Xbox One and if you like, or a PC and you like zombie survival games just for the heck of surviving in a zombie apocalypse,
Mm-hmm.
give this game a try. But if you want a deep narrative focused game,
Mm-hmm.
look somewhere else.
Honestly, I think this is the most critical view of a game I've ever heard from you. Because usually you're very positive about anything you play. I think it has
Yeah,
something to do with the fact that you're pretty picky when it comes to your gaming choices.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard you like, yeah, sure, if you want to buy it, but otherwise don't bother.
Yeah, yeah, me personally, even though, like, I do play sucky games, but I try and look also at the positive of what it is and what it could have been.
That's a good way to look at things. So I personally this week have only got to play one game as well. Not because I was hit by a storm, just because I was somewhat lazy and I actually enjoyed the game for once. The game is Wizard of Legend. So this is a roguelite action sort of RPG, I guess is the closest way to call it. It's your typical dungeon crawler, and it's all about combat. The story is close to non-existent, but the combat is so well executed that it is actually fun. They say they have been inspired by Wizardry, the games, and honestly, I can see that. But the thing I see an influence of is Avatar: The Last Airbender. Because there are 3 bosses in the game, and each time you go into a new run, you have to defeat all 3 of them. One of them is a fire boss. The second is a water boss. The third is an earth boss. And especially the earth boss is so obviously influenced by Avatar. He literally is punching blocks of stone at you. And with just movements that are so similar to Avatar. And even though I'm not a big fan of Japanese culture, you know that, I actually really enjoyed Avatar. And it's one of the TV series I can watch with my girlfriend because we both enjoy the stories. I think the fact that it is a Western cartoon with a Japanese or Chinese look attached to it, but it still has that Western vibe to the way its storytelling is done. So I enjoy that quite a lot. And this game, honestly, it has so many options. You have so many options for spells. You can build your character to precisely the way you want him built. You can upgrade him during the run. You can change him between runs. And for €16 or $16, Honestly, that's a great price, and the fact that it has a very positive rating on Steam, I think is a good reflection on this. I'm going to have a review of it up this week, so if anybody's interested in my more detailed thoughts, be sure to check that out. But otherwise, yeah, definite recommendation if you like dungeon crawlers and you don't mind 2D pixel art graphics. Well, because of the storm, you haven't gotten to play anything else. I haven't gotten to play anything else because I was lazy. So I guess it's time to take a look at the news.
Yes.
So, today we're going to begin with good news, I think. So, some of you may remember a swatting incident that happened late last year where a completely innocent man was killed because the police was called to a wrong address. And the people who have been behind that, more specifically Tyler Barris, who is the man who instigated the swatting, has been brought to justice and is now facing federal charges. So the charges that are being held up to him are making a false report resulting in the death of a person, cyber stalking resulting in death, and both of these carry penalties up to a lifetime in prison and a $250,000 fine. So this actually makes me pretty happy.
Yeah, but it goes without saying though. But I think Tyler Barris, I think he was actually hired by the person who wanted to swat another guy. So
yes. So it started by Casey Viner and Shane Gaskell, and Viner actually asked Barris, who was actually a known swatter. I don't know how the fuck you are a known swatter. To, you know, swat somebody because of a dispute in a Call of Duty match. And Barris did it, and Gaskell actually knowingly provided an address to Barris, but he didn't know is that the address was no longer in use by the person with whom he had a dispute. It was occupied by a 20-year-old Andrew Finch, who, well, came out and to his porch and was shot there. So what I want to say here is I really hope he gets convicted and gets many, many years in prison.
Yes.
Because I really don't see another option for our community to understand that swatting is a really stupid idea and that it needs to have serious repercussions.
Yes, most definitely.
So, and the usual kind of stuff, don't do swatting yourself. If you know anybody who's even thinking about it, punch them in their face.
Yes.
And I don't care if you get a fine because you punched somebody in their face. You may have saved somebody's life. I think that's well worth it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully this helps sway some people away from swatting. Yes.
Yeah, make it a deterrent. If you do this, you'll possibly face jail time for doing so.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't think there is a stupider trend in the gaming community at the moment.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Even like going into like the political section of games, I still think those are fine compared to this. If I had to choose between like, I don't care whether it's the leftist or the rightist going into and putting their ideologies into games and getting rid of that or getting rid of swatting, immediately I would say get rid of swatting. It's still so much better than not having to deal with ideologies in our games. Ideally, I would like both, but that's an unfeasible goal, I think.
Yeah. Speaking of ideologies in games,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you knew this, but usually like in every time period, art is influenced by what's going on in the real world. Say.
Yeah, and I think that's actually fine. I think that's okay. Art is a reflection of our society, and part of our society is our politics, and we just have to learn to live with that.
That's right.
Though ideally, I would love if art was just unideological, but I know that's not a feasible goal to try to attire. But I do think that getting rid of swatting is a feasible goal to get.
Yes, it is.
So, talking about games and politics, some of you may have heard about the game We Happy Few, which, if you don't know, is a game all about drug misuse. And because of that, because the game depicts or expresses what matters that deal with drugs, it has been effectively banned in Australia. It wasn't banned per se, but it was the board that gives classifications to games in Australia, to whom the games can be sold to. Well, they just denied to give this game a classification, effectively banning it from sale in Australia. Interesting enough, we actually have the report from the board available. So, there's like the name, publisher, blah, 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 not important stuff. But there's also the reason for why they decided not to classify it. And the reason goes, the computer game is classified, refused classification in accordance to the National Classification Code, Computer Table 1A, as computers games that depict, express, or otherwise deal with matters of sex, drug misuse or addiction, crime, cruelty, violence, or revolting or abhorrent phenomena in such a way that they offend against the standards of morality, decency, and propriety generally accepted by reasonable adults, to the extent that should not be classified. So, what do you think of this?
Honestly, the game is an. I don't know how much you follow the game, but the game isn't really about misusing drugs. It's about a society that relies on the drug to where they see stuff that isn't actually there. Like, it distorts their reality of what's actually going on in the world.
Yeah, I've read a little bit into the game before. I do my research somewhat.
Yeah.
So as far as I understand, it is a central gameplay mechanic that you are supposed to be taking a drug called joy.
Yeah.
And if you're actually not taking it, it has some serious repercussions for you as a character, essentially meaning the NPCs can detect you more easily and potentially leading into conflicts and even repercussions from the game's, authorities, I guess.
Yeah.
It just seems so weird to ban a game that, in my opinion, is actually warning about the negative effects of drugs.
Yeah, really. I mean, in all honesty, especially if if the game, if let's say joy was actually just like a side thing, like way off to the side of the mechanics. But this is actually a front and center main game mechanic. So, I think just banning a game for just how it portrays stuff I mean, come on. But I mean, come on. It's Australia, so
Yeah, Australia has
they,
been really weird with their view on drugs.
yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but they actually banned Fallout 3 for the exact same reason.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
you could use
Sure
chems
they.
in Fallout 3. And even though eventually Fallout 3 was unbanned, or it was, got its classification, but it
Yeah.
had to be
Yeah.
a revised version of Fallout 3.
Yeah. Yeah. Because thing like Med-X at the time was called morphine
Mm-hmm.
and so forth. But in all honesty, the changes that they made in Fallout 3, actually, I think it might have added a benefit to the game because
That's an interesting view.
I mean, like Med-X and all that,
Mm-hmm.
that just seems like something that actually fit in the universe of Fallout. So
No, that's a decent opinion, and I can roll with that. But I don't think it would be as easily done for We Are a Few. Well, we have
yeah,
a few.
yeah,
Here,
I agree with
it's
that.
such a central thing that
Yeah,
and as it is the case for Australia, pirates, get ready because there really won't be any other way to get the game.
yeah,
And already your games are much more expensive than the rest of the world. Your internet is shitty as fuck. I'm so glad I don't live in Australia, man.
same here.
Considering what my job is.
Yeah,
Oh, let's move on. Let's move on to the Overwatch League. So, the Overwatch League, I think I would classify it as an esports experiment. If you guys don't know, Overwatch League was essentially a tryout to see whether if we take the standard sports format, which means teams based on location and having a home city and having regular matches between these teams, would also work within the esports community. And from the numbers we are seeing, it doesn't really seem to be working. It started pretty well. It started with over 350,000 people watching the initial event for Overwatch League. But actually, when it came to last week's Stage 4, less than 100,000 people were watching. And
dang.
the general trend is, well, it's going downwards. Only time when it ever gets a spike in viewership is when the finals of each stage are happening, but that's somewhat understandable as that is the time where something is at stake. But in my opinion, it just seems like this was a failed experiment.
yeah, I agree.
And I never really saw what the reason for trying this out was in the first place. Like, do you care where your favorite esports player lives or for which team he plays? Or do you watch him because he's entertaining?
Me personally, I don't watch esports, so
Yeah, yeah, me neither, to be honest. The only esports I ever watch is occasionally Rocket League and sometimes Hearthstone. But let's say you would be a big Overwatch esports fan. Would you watch it for the personalities or for the team?
honestly, I would say for the personalities.
Yeah, so I think this was their main mistake. They imagined that people who care about esports for the same reasons why people care about sports.
Yeah,
But I think the community is so different. We care about individualities. We care about people who are entertaining to watch. We
yeah,
don't really care about people playing for a particular team. So, we'll see whether Overwatch League can find its place in the world. But so far, it seems that, well, it's not really the greatest position in it. Though, I'm gonna say this, I do believe that the sudden rise in popularity of the Battle Royale genre probably has something to do with it as well.
Yeah.
But we'll see how everything turns out. Okay, let's move on to slightly better news. And we're going to talk about our favorite video game publisher. We are going to talk about EA. Yay. But for once, we can actually say positive things about them. As it seems, they have finally fucking learned. And there will be no loot boxes in Battlefield 5. And that makes me so happy. I can't even stress how happy that makes me. Hopefully other publishers follow in EA's wake and realize that loot boxes, while very profitable, there's no doubt about that, are not good for the industry in the long run. Yeah. And to stick with Battlefield 5 for a moment, there is a bit of a controversy surrounding Battlefield 5 at the moment, obviously. And this time I actually don't agree with it. So the controversy is essentially that it isn't historically accurate because it has female characters. So? Who gives a damn?
Yeah, really.
It's a video game.
Yeah, it's a work of fiction, not a history book. There's a big difference.
And to be honest, I was actually expecting Battlefield 5 to be played from the point of view of the Nazis. That was like my own personal guess in the back of my mind, but I understand why they didn't go that route. That would have been political suicide these days.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so what that you can play as a one? So what that is historically inaccurate?
Yeah. Get over it.
You think it's historically accurate that you can headshot 800 soldiers in 20 minutes?
Heck no. Heck no.
No. It's not. It's a game. People
and I'll say this too. In Battlefield 1, take place in World War I, that game was not historically accurate either because most of World War I was fought in trenches. So.
Yeah, and it was a horrible war. It was honestly, when it came to what the impact it left on the soldiers' psyches, it was probably worse than World War II.
Yeah.
So, people, please stop giving a shit about stupid things.
Yes. And just get over it. If it's a big deal to you, just like, hey, you might enjoy the game, give it a try, and just, hey, get over it. Just get over it.
And if you don't want to play as a female character,
don't
play as one.
Yeah.
Is it such a hard concept to grab? I'm confused to no end.
That's actually one of the first things that my brother, he's a big Battlefield player, and when I told him that they had a live stream revealing the next Battlefield, that's actually one of the first things he pointed out. But hey, it's not a big deal to him, and I was like, there you go.
Yeah, it seems you have a normal brother, not an idiot.
Yeah,
Okay, let's move on from this idiotic quote-unquote controversy. Let's talk about something that I do believe is actually controversial. And that is the fact that it seems that we will have to wait at least 3 years before the PlayStation 5 comes to the market. You're the PlayStation guy, so why don't you go first this time?
Actually, I do not find this controversial. I think another 3 years, 2021, or at least 2020, I think that's a perfect time frame for the PS5 to come out. So
you think 8 years in the computer world is not too long of a period for a single product to exist on the shelves?
Well, you also got to take into account that it's only been 2 years for the PS4 Pro, and that
I understand that argument, but I don't think it's really an argument because the games do still have to run on the original PS4 and the Xbox.
Yeah, true.
So I'm really pissed about this, to be honest with you. Because to give you an example, okay, the total the total power of the PlayStation 4 is about 4.5 teraflops.
Yeah.
The computational power of my graphics cards alone, and I don't have the most high end of the high end, I have a 1070, is about 7.5 teraflops. And that's my graphics cards alone. That's not taking in account my CPU. And not even talking if I had, like, you know, a top tier graphic cards that have around 12 teraflops per second. And if you go into like the professional market, even though that is very specific and I don't think should be taken into account much, but the newest Titan Volta has over 100 teraflops of raw power. But let's stick with my card, as that I think is slightly above average.
Yeah.
That's still double the computational power of the PlayStation 4.
Oh yeah. That's definitely.
Can you imagine what developers could do if they had access to such performance? All across the board.
They can do quite a lot more. But also, there's actually another reason why, like compared to you, I'm not actually pissed off about it, is because, hey, the more time they take, hopefully the console, when they finally do announce and it comes out, hopefully it'll be a whole lot better than the PS4. So.
Well, that's, you know, they could like have a 4-year cycle, and every 4 years you could get a new console, and in 8 years you would get the same exact console as you will get right now, but you would also have a console somewhere in the mid-game that could improve on the technologies. Instead of 4.5 teraflops of power, you could have something like, I don't know, 7. And I think a lot of people will just take this as me being a graphics whore. As talking, but I'm not really talking about the graphics. I mostly play games that are indies. But what I am talking about is things like AI in games. Because part of the power of the console or the PC also has to be used for AI. And I really don't like the fact that because of consoles, we are essentially forced to use almost a decade-old technology when we could be much further along the way. Like, can you imagine your cell phone 8 years ago? And the technology has moved pretty quickly on the PC side of things as well.
Yeah.
So I was hoping that it would at the very latest be 2020. But my honest guess is that it will be the end, the very end, right before Christmas of 2021. And
Kidding me?
I just don't like it. And sorry, but this is the thing I don't like about consoles. The fact that they are holding back the industry as a whole.
Yeah, I can see that. But hey.
Yeah, it's not much I can do about it now. Yeah.
But hey, I feel like developers, if they want to stop developing games for consoles, go straight to PC. Just develop for that.
Oh, and many are. We got more exclusives than you guys. We just don't call them exclusives.
Yeah.
So let's go on to our, well, essentially last piece of news before we go into our weekly Fortnite section. This is actually great news, especially for those of us that are PC gamers, as the Steam Spring Sale is live right at this moment, and it's going to be live tomorrow as well. So if you haven't bought any games, well, you should go and buy games right now because they are dirt cheap right now. Just a quick overview of the specials. So for example, you can get Borderlands for just $7.49. You can get Dead by Daylight for $10. City Skylines for $7. Shadow of Mordor for $8. Pillars of Eternity for $17. You know, everything is super cheap, and everybody can find something. And there are also tons of achievements that, well, if you're the guy who likes achievements, go get them, boy. I know this is boring news to you.
Actually, for me on PS4 and all that, we actually get weekly sales every week. So
yeah, well, we do as well, but this is like suddenly 2,000 games are on sale. So let's go into the weekly Fortnite section of the podcast. And let's start with a bit of a public announcement. As, well, there are again scams going on with V-Bucks. So this time it is phishing sites that look very similarly to Epic's site, and they are offering free or discounted V-Bucks. And they're scams. It's pretty obvious. If you want to buy V-Bucks, buy them in game. It's the easiest way to do it. Anybody who will be giving you any chance of getting something for free or at a discount is most likely being a scammer. Don't give them your personal information, and mostly the scammers will just take over your account, resell them for a profit, or just sell your personal information, sell that for a profit. Be very careful about your personal information. And then there's the second piece of Fortnite news. This one is actually more interesting. So Epic, the developers behind Fortnite, have pledged $100 million in prize funds for tournaments for its first year of esports. That is bonkers. I still don't see why people would like to watch Fortnite as an esport, to be honest. It's a good game to play, don't get me wrong there. It's very fun. But watching somebody camp for 20 minutes, that's not my idea of fun.
No, it's not.
But Fortnite seems to be unstoppable at the moment, and if you're good at it, well, go and try to win some of those $100 million. Maybe we'll get lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, well, that's pretty much it for the news this week. Unless you have something you would like to add.
No. Once again, you've pretty much, covered all the major stuff this week, so.
I try. So, let's go on to game recommendations. Would you like to start?
Yeah, this week is not that big in the game. There are not that many big games coming out, except for one that you mentioned earlier called Agony.
Yes, it's also on my list of recommendations. It's coming out on the 29th for essentially everything, as far as I know. Maybe apart from the Switch. And it's a first-person survival horror set in hell. So, if you're a little sissy, don't play it. But if you like to be scared, or are a person who doesn't get easily scared, this might be totally up your alley. And I myself have one more recommendation. This is an indie game called Unworthy. And it is a hardcore combat-focused Metroidvania without any jumping, which I find very interesting. It's fully black and white, and the person who brought my attention towards it, which is the Markiest Mark, some of you Steemians may know of him, says that it should essentially be a 2D Dark Souls. And that does sound pretty interesting, and I will definitely take a look at this next week. So we'll see how it goes. It's also coming out on the 29th. It's developed by Alexander Kuzmanovich Games Incorporated. I love saying Russian names. Sadly, there is no price tag available on it at the moment. I'm hoping maybe I could get the game for free from the dev, but if I won't, I will be picking this up 100% and I will be reviewing this. Do you got anything else to recommend?
No, I do not. How about you?
No, I don't. So, I guess it is time to bring today's show to an end. Yes. So guys, we hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, please consider giving us a thumbs up here on YouTube and subscribing to the channel. If you are watching on Steemit, maybe you want to give us an upvote and follow the blog. Be also sure to check out our blogs. Tygergamer, where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube as Tygergamer and on Steam at Tygergamer.
And if you wish to find more of my content, you can go to Kralizec Gaming on YouTube or to Steemit at Kralizec. So be sure to leave a comment, be sure to leave a like, and see you guys later with more gaming content.
Y'all have a good one.